The Khazari Dominion ruled many stars with iron claws and buzzing minds. They moved as one great hive. Their ships filled the black between worlds like angry insects. Their soldiers wore armor that clicked when they walked. Every Khazari felt the thoughts of every other through thin chemical threads in the air. No one stood alone. No one needed to ask what the group wanted. The group always knew. Humans fought hard when the Khazari came. The war lasted 5 cycles of Earth seasons. Humans lost ships and cities and moons. They lost friends and families. The Khazari lost even more. They bled green ichor across battlefields, and still humans kept shooting back. At last the human leaders signed papers on a neutral station. They agreed to stop fighting. They agreed to open their worlds to Khazari governors. They agreed to many rules written in sharp alien script. The Khazari celebrated with loud chitters that echoed through their hive links. They thought the fight was over. They thought humans had learned fear. Most human planets became quiet places under new flags. New Elysium was one of those worlds. It grew grain and fruit in wide red fields under 2 pale suns. The people worked the soil and kept their heads down. Khazari overseers walked among them with long legs and compound eyes. They counted every harvest. They marked every child born. They wrote long reports back to the central hive. One overseer named Vexthar took charge of the main settlement. He stood taller than most Khazari. His mandibles shone with extra polish. He liked order. He liked control. He noticed that human children stayed apart from the adults during work hours. They played in fenced yards near low buildings. The adults watched them with careful eyes. Vexthar smelled something strange in that care. It was not normal submission. It felt like a secret. He spoke to his lieutenants through the link. They agreed. The young ones might hide weapons or plans. The young ones might carry hope. The young ones needed to learn who ruled. Now Vexthar gave the order. 47 children between 6 and 12 cycles would come to the central square. They would stand in lines. They would wear chains of light metal. They would smile for the cameras. The images would go to every Khazari world. The message would be clear. Humans bend even their smallest members. The day came bright and hot. The children walked from their compound in quiet rows. Khazari soldiers flanked them with shock spears held ready. No parent followed. No adult shouted. No one threw stones. The streets stayed empty, except for a few old humans who watched from windows with blank faces. The children reached the square. They stood straight. The chains made soft clinks when they moved. Vexthar stepped forward. His voice hissed through amplifiers. "Welcome, young humans," he said. "Today you join the greater whole. Today you show your people the path of peace." The children did not answer. Some looked at the ground. Some stared straight ahead. One girl with dark braids clenched her small fists behind her back. Cameras floated above them. They captured every face. They captured every tremble. The feed went live across the Dominion worlds. Khazari in distant hives watched and chittered approval. This is how you break a species, they thought. Take the nest. Take the larvae. Take the future. Vexthar raised one claw. The soldiers tightened the chains. The children stepped forward 1 pace. The square filled with the smell of warm dust and nervous sweat. A drone buzzed low and projected huge images of the scene onto the sky. Humans on other worlds would see it too. They would see their children chained. They would see no rescue coming. Hours passed. The suns climbed, then began to drop. The children stood without food or water. Some swayed, but none fell. Vexthar watched with calm pride. He sent messages to the high hive. "The demonstration succeeds," he wrote. "Morale among the occupied drops quickly. The young serve as perfect symbols." The reply came fast. "Continues." Night fell. Cool wind moved across the fields. The children still stood. Soldiers changed shifts. New Khazari arrived to watch the small figures in the square. Lights shone on them from tall poles. The girl with dark braids whispered to the boy next to her. He nodded once. They both looked up at the stars for a long moment. No riots came. No ships dropped from orbit. No human voices rose in anger. The Khazari relaxed. They posted fewer guards. They laughed in their clicking way. They told each other the primitives had accepted their place. Vexthar returned to his command building. He reviewed the footage again. He liked the silence best of all. It proved victory. Inside human homes on New Elysium, parents sat in dark rooms. They held hands. They looked at empty beds. They did not speak much. Words felt too small for what burned inside them. Mothers traced fingers over hollow pictures of smiling faces. Fathers cleaned old hunting rifles they no longer used for game. Now, on other human worlds, the same quiet spread. Families gathered in basements and back rooms. They watched the same feed again and again. They saw the chains. They saw the square. They saw the faces they knew best. No one cried out loud. Tears fell, but voices stayed low. Plans formed in whispers. Codes passed through trusted hands. Old contacts woke from years of sleep. Messages traveled on hidden channels. The Khazari noticed none of it. They counted their triumphs. They prepared new re-education classes. They planned more demonstrations. The hive mind hummed with satisfaction. The humans had folded. The children had proven it. 3 weeks began to pass. The children remained in the square. They slept on thin mats under guard. They ate small rations handed out by soldiers. They spoke little. They watched everything. Vexthar visited daily. He spoke kind words he did not mean. He offered freedom if they recited loyalty oaths. None recited anything. They only stared. Elder species watched from far away. They remembered other wars. They remembered how humans fought. They wondered why no counterattack came. Some said humans had finally learned wisdom. Others said something worse brewed beneath the calm. Vexthar stood on his balcony one evening. He looked at the square below. The children sat in rows. The lights made long shadows. One boy pointed at a shooting star. The others followed his finger. They smiled small, secret smiles. Vexthar felt a tiny itch in his mind. He dismissed it as fatigue. He turned back inside. The first reports arrived at dawn. A relay station on the outer belt went dark. No explosion, no battle, just silence. The link to that sector vanished. The hive mind felt a sudden gap like a missing limb. Vexthar received the alert. He stared at the screen. He said scouts. They found empty rooms, cold consoles, no bodies, no signs of struggle. More stations followed. One by one they dropped away. The silence spread like frost. Vexthar paced his command room. He demanded answers. No one had any. The children still sat in the square unchanged. A single message reached the high hive. It came on a private human channel, short and cold. We have your coordinates. We have your brood worlds. Return the children untouched. There will be no second offer. Vexthar read it twice. He laughed, a sharp chitter that bounced off the walls. Humans had no such power. Their fleets stayed docked. Their weapons stayed cold. It was a bluff, a weak attempt to save face. He ordered the broadcast of the square again. Let the galaxy see. Let the humans see their empty threat. The children looked up at the cameras. One by one they raised their hands. They pressed palms together in a simple gesture. No one understood what it meant. Vexthar smiled wider. He thought it was surrender. 3 weeks passed after the children stood in the square. The suns rose and set on New Elysium without change. The fields kept growing. The machines kept harvesting. The Khazari soldiers walked their rounds with easy steps. They no longer kept full watch on the chained young ones. A few guards stayed near the square, mostly to stop boredom from creeping in. Vexthar spent his days in the command building. He reviewed reports. He planned the next steps of re-education. He felt calm. The silence from the humans meant defeat. He told himself that every morning. The first strange thing happened on a quiet morning. A small relay station on the edge of the system stopped sending signals. The station handled pheromone links between nearby hives. It went dark, without warning. No blast, no fire, no call for help. The hive mind felt a sudden empty spot, like a tooth pulled out. Vexthar got the alert while eating his nutrient paste. He stared at the screen. He sent 2 scout ships. They arrived fast, found the station empty, lights off, consoles cold, chairs pushed back as if the crew had simply walked away. No blood, no damage, no trace of struggle. Vexthar ordered more checks. Other outposts went quiet, one after another. 3 in one day, 5 the next. The gaps in the hive link grew wider. The chittering thoughts of distant Khazari became faint, then gone. Vexthar paced his room. He demanded answers from his officers. They had none. Scouts returned with the same story. Empty rooms, empty armor racks, weapons neatly stacked. Tools left where they last lay. It looked like the Khazari had chosen to leave, not like someone forced them out. The High Hive sent questions. Why this silence? Why no fight? Vexthar answered with confidence. It must be human trickery, a virus in the systems, a clever hack. He would find the source, he would crush it. He ordered full scans of every station still working. Nothing showed wrong. The code ran clean, the hardware stayed perfect. Yet the silence spread. Children in the square did something small. One boy looked up at the sky. He pointed. A thin trail of light crossed high above. A human ship, perhaps. A probe. No one knew. The children watched it pass. They did not speak. They only smiled tiny smiles. The guards noticed. They reported it. Vexthar watched the recording. He felt a cold touch in his gut. He pushed it away. He told himself, children smile for no reason. More relays failed. Entire sectors dropped from the hive mind. The Dominion felt smaller. The buzzing unity grew thin. Khazari on core worlds started to feel alone for the first time. Their thoughts echoed back without answer. Panic stirred in the lower castes. Warriors asked questions. Officers gave no good replies. The High Hive broadcast calm messages. All under control. Temporary faults. Repairs underway. The messages did not help. The fear grew anyway. Vexthar called his senior officers. They gathered in the map room. Hollow screens showed the Dominion in green lights. Gray? He pointed at the map. The humans did this, he said. They used stealth. They used tricks. We must strike back. The officers agreed. They prepared attack plans. They loaded ships. They waited for orders from the High Hive. The orders never came. The central link stayed quiet. A single message arrived then. It came on an old human frequency. Short words in clear script. We have your coordinates. We have your brood worlds. Return the children untouched. There will be no second offer. Vexthar read it aloud. His officers chittered in anger. A bluff, they said. Humans lie. Humans always lie. Their fleets sit in docks. Their weapons gather dust. They cannot reach our heart worlds. Vexthar agreed. He laughed loud to cover the doubt. He ordered the message ignored. He ordered more guards around the square. He wanted the children watched closer. The next day, scouts reported something worse. A brood moon on the inner fringe had gone silent. Not one station, not one ship. The whole place. No larvae signals, no nurse. Drones. No warrior patrols. Just dead air. The hive mind searched for any thread. Nothing answered. Vexthar felt the gap like a wound. He sent a fast courier ship. It jumped away. It never jumped back. Fear moved through the ranks now. Soldiers whispered in low clicks. They checked their weapons twice. They looked over shoulders. They no longer mocked the humans so much. Vexthar walked the streets to show strength. He stood tall. He spoke loud. He told them victory comes soon. The soldiers nodded. They wanted to believe him. In human homes, the quiet grew thicker. Parents met in small groups. They spoke in low voices. They shared old maps. They checked hidden caches. They counted days. No one rushed. No one panicked. They waited. They planned. One mother held a picture of her son in the square. She touched his face. She said nothing. Her eyes burned bright. On other worlds, humans did the same. Families gathered. They watched feeds. They saw empty Khazari posts. They saw the silence spread. Came next. They had prepared for years. They had built things in secret. Small ships, fast ships, silent ships, ships that carried no flags, no names, no mercy. They waited for the signal. The signal had come. Vexthar stood on his balcony one night. He looked at the square below. The children sat in neat rows. They ate their evening meal. They drank water from cups. The lights made their faces glow. One girl with dark braids looked straight at him. She did not blink. She raised one hand. She pressed it flat toward him, as if marking something. Vexthar stared back. He felt the itch in his mind again, stronger now. He turned away. He went inside. He locked the door. Reports kept coming. Brood chambers on 3 more worlds reported strange things. Larvae moved slow. Nurses felt dizzy. Guards smelled odd scents. No one died. No one fought. Yet the hives weakened. The young stopped growing right. The chemical signals faltered. The unity cracked. Vexthar sat at his desk. He stared at the message again. We have your brood worlds. He crushed the tablet in his claw. Green ichor dripped from the cracks. He called for his best scout team. Find the human ships, he ordered. Find them and destroy them. The team left. They searched the dark. They found nothing. No trails, no heat, no debris. The black stayed black. The galaxy watched. The elder species sent probes. They listened to the silence. They saw the Dominion shrink. They whispered among themselves, humans do not forget. Humans do not forgive. Some remembered old stories. Stories of other races that harmed the young. Stories of those races gone now. No ruins, no graves, just empty space. Vexthar refused to yield. He doubled the guards. He chained the children tighter. He broadcast new images. The children look healthy, he said. They learn our ways soon. The high hive praised him. Keep going. Keep strong. The praise felt hollow. Inside the square, the children whispered when guards looked away. They shared looks. They counted stars. They remembered faces. They knew help came slow, but sure. One boy drew a small shape in the dust, a hand with 5 fingers. He wiped it away before anyone saw. Vexthar dreamed that night. He saw empty hives. He saw larvae marked with handprints. He saw his own body fade into dust. He woke in sweat. He checked the screens. All quiet. Too quiet. The silence grew heavier. It pressed on every Khazari mind. It promised something worse than death. It promised nothing at all. On the 24th day, the first black ship appeared. No warning, no flare, no radio call. It slipped inside the outer defense grid of Khazari Prime, like smoke through a crack. The station sensors screamed too late. The ship already hung above the main brood spire. Small, fast, dark as night. No lights, no markings, no engines that glowed hot. It just sat there, silent. Alarms filled every hive chamber. Warriors rushed to posts. They aimed weapons. They locked targets. The ship did nothing. It waited. Crews inside moved quiet. They wore suits black as the hull. They carried no guns. They carried small canisters and thin tools. They dropped to the surface in single pods, pods no bigger than a Khazari torso. They landed soft. They opened without sound. Inside the brood spire, larvae crawled in warm nutrient pools. Nurses tended them with gentle claws. The air smelled sweet and thick. The first human stepped out. He moved fast. He reached the nearest pool. He dipped one gloved hand. He pressed it flat against a fat white larva. The mark stayed bright red under black light. A simple handprint. 5 fingers spread wide. In the center letters formed. Property of Terra. Do not reproduce. The words glowed faint but clear. The human moved to the next larva, then the next. He marked hundreds in minutes. Other humans spread through the spire. They marked every grub, every egg sac, every fresh-hatched warrior. No one fought back. The Khazari nurses froze. They stared. They felt confusion ripple through the link. No pain came. No death came. Just the marks. Just the words. The humans finished. They left as quiet as they came. The pods lifted. The black ship vanished. Reports flooded the high hive. Larvae marked on Khazari Prime, on 3 sister worlds, on 5 outer brood moons. Billions of young carried the handprint. The hive mind recoiled. It felt violation. It felt something worse than injury. The unity cracked wider. Panic spread through castes. Workers refused tasks. Warriors dropped weapons. Orders. No one listened well. Vexthar watched the feeds at his command room. He saw the marks. He saw the words. His mandibles clicked fast. He ordered ships launched. He ordered defenses raised. More black ships appeared. In every system. In every hive. In places the Khazari thought safe. They came and went like ghosts. They marked and left. No shots fired. No blood spilled. Then the second wave started. Not with ships. Not with soldiers. With something smaller. Something silent. Orbital platforms high above core worlds began to hum. Soft at first, then louder. A fine mist sprayed down. The mist carried no color, no smell, yet it sank into every creche, every tunnel, every breathing pore. The retrovirus worked perfect. It targeted Khazari genes. It changed nothing in adults. It killed future eggs. It stopped sperm. It froze ovaries. It promised one last generation, then nothing. The high hive felt the change. Nurses tried to lay. New eggs came small and gray. They crumbled to dust. Warriors tried to come out. Mate. Nothing took. The chemical signals failed. The pheromones turned sour. The hive minds screamed in silence for the first time. No larvae answered. No young thoughts joined the chorus. Just echoes of older minds, fading slow. Vexthar stood in the square on New Elysium. He looked at the children. The chains still held them. The guards still watched. Yet something shifted. The children no longer bowed heads. They looked up. They looked straight. They smiled small, knowing smiles. Vexthar felt cold. He ordered the soldiers to tighten grips. The soldiers hesitated. The link carried fear now. Fear stronger than orders. A message came then, from human command. Short words. We warned you. The children stay until every mark fades, until every virus runs its course. No deals, no mercy. Vexthar chittered rage. He smashed a console. Sparks flew. He called for his fleet. The fleet answered slow. Many ships reported engine faults. Many crews reported sickness. Not real sickness, mind sickness. Doubt that the Dominion could win. Doubt that the old ways worked. Doubt that humans bluffed. Across human space, the mood stayed grim. No cheers, no victory songs. Parents sat in dark rooms. They watched secret feeds. They saw black ships. They saw marks. They saw mist. They knew the cost. They knew the need. Admirals met in bunkers. They spoke low. They planned next moves. Not for conquest, for finish. One admiral looked at old photos. Children laughing in parks. Children safe. He said simple words. They touched ours. We end theirs. No more, no less. The galaxy noticed. Elder species sent probes. They watched the black ships. They watched the silence grow. They remembered tales. Humans protect their young with fire that burns whole worlds. Humans do not stop. Humans do not forgive. The elders stayed far. They did not interfere. They only watched. On a brood world far from New Elysium, a nurse held a marked larva. She tried to wash the handprint. It stayed. It glowed brighter. She felt the link weaken. Eggs inside her fail. She set the larva down. She walked away. She sat in a corner. She stared at nothing. Vexthar returned to the square. He stood before the children. He spoke loud. You think this wins? You think Marx and Mist destroy us? We adapt. We rebuild. The girl with dark braids looked at him. She spoke first time since chains. She said one sentence. You touched us. Now no more of you. Her voice carried soft, yet clear. The words reached every soldier, every guard, every Khazari near. The hive mind caught them. It echoed them. It could not shake them. Vexthar stepped back. He felt small. He felt the end near. More platforms released mist. More worlds felt the change. Larvae stopped growing. Nurses stopped tending. Warriors stopped fighting. The Dominion shrank fast, not from battle, not from fire, from simple math. No young, no future, no species. Vexthar sat alone in his room. He looked at screens. Gray lights spread. Gray gaps grew. He thought of the children. He thought of the square, of the hand that marked his fate. He closed his eyes. He waited. The black ships kept coming. They marked, they misted, they vanished. They left proof. Proof that humans kept promises. Proof that some lines must never cross. Proof that touching human children carried one price. Erasure, total, complete. Across human space the mood stayed heavy. No parades filled the streets. No crowds cheered from rooftops. No flags waved high. People moved quiet. They worked their jobs. They ate their meals. They slept in their beds. Yet inside every home, every heart carried the same fire. It burned slow and steady. It burned without end. Parents looked at empty chairs. They saw faces that should sit there. Children who laughed loud. Children who asked questions. Children who ran through grass. Now those children sat chained in a distant square on New Elysium. The fire grew hotter with each passing hour. In deep bunkers under old mountains, admirals gathered. They sat around plain tables. They watched screens that showed black ships. They watched feeds from marked brood worlds. They spoke in low voices. One admiral named Reyes rubbed his gray beard. He said simple words. They cross the line. We finish it clean. No half measures. No prisoners. No second chances. The others nodded. They knew the truth. Humans did not seek war. Humans sought safety. For their young, for their future, for the next breath their children took. Psychologists joined the meetings. They explained old wiring in human brains. No hive link, no shared pheromones, just separate minds. Each mind held its own pain. Each mind held its own rage. When enough minds felt the same pain, the rage joined. It became one weapon, one unstoppable force. The psychologists pointed to history. Every species that harms human young vanished. The Zolthar, the Vrenki, the old Drawl. None left records, none left names. Just empty orbits and cold stories. Humans did not boast about those ends. Humans simply moved on. In small apartments on crowded stations, mothers held hollow frames. They touched screens. They saw their sons, their daughters, their nieces, their nephews. The images showed smiles from before the occupation, before chains, before silence. One mother named Leela whispered to the dark room, "You come home soon. You come home whole." She did not cry loud, saved her tears. She used her strength to wait, to plan, to trust the quiet machine that worked beyond sight. Fathers met in workshops. They cleaned rifles. They checked power cells. They sharpened blades. They spoke little. They knew words changed nothing. Action changed everything. One father held a small carved toy. He turned it in his hands. He remembered his daughter playing with it. She laughed then. She did not laugh now. He put the toy down. He picked up his gear. He joined the line of volunteers. They waited for orders. They waited, patient. Teachers gathered in empty classrooms. They looked at desks too small for adults. They remembered lessons on kindness, on sharing, on hope. They remembered stories told to wide eyes, stories of heroes who protected the weak. Now the teachers taught different lessons. They taught patience. They taught silence. They taught that some debts must pay in full. No discounts. No mercy. On Earth in quiet valleys, old diplomats sat on porches. They watched stars, drank warm drinks. They talked soft. One diplomat named Harlan remembered the first contact with Khazari. He remembered their pride, their numbers, their confidence. He remembered how humans smiled polite. He remembered the warning given then. Never touch what we guard. The Khazari laughed then. They laughed no more. Harlan sipped his drink. He said to the night, "They forgot the oldest rule. We wrote extinction in our cradle tales. They thought we joked. We never joke about children." News feeds stayed calm. Official reports spoke of normal operations. Trade continued. Food shipped. Supplies moved. Yet under the surface, messages flew. Hidden channels carried codes. Old friends woke from sleep. Networks long quiet lit up again. Engineers checked stealth drives. Scientists watched virus spread. Biologists tracked sterility rates. Everyone worked. Everyone waited. No one rushed. The plan moved perfect. No mistakes. No leaks. In one bunker, a young officer asked an old general, "Why no joy? Why no celebration?" General looked at him long. He answered simple, "Because we do not enjoy this. We do not celebrate ends. We do what must done. When a hand reaches for your child, you cut the arm. You do not dance after. You wash the blood. You hold your child. You sleep sound. That is all." On New Elysium, Vexthar walked the streets. He saw humans go about their days. They nodded polite. They worked fields. They fixed machines. Yet their eyes stayed hard. Their steps stayed sure. Vexthar felt watched. He felt small. He returned to the square. The children sat quiet. They ate. They drank. They watched him back. No fear showed. No weakness showed. Only patience. Endless patience. The girl with dark braids met his gaze again. She spoke no words. She only raised her hand. She pressed it flat. The same gesture as before. Vexthar turned away. He felt the mark on his own mind. He felt the handprint there, invisible, yet burning. Reports came steady. Brood worlds emptied slow. Nurses walked away. Larvae died quiet. No new ones rose. The dominion shrank. The hive link thinned. The chittering thoughts grew few. The silence filled every gap. In human command centers, screens glowed green. Checks marked complete. Phases finished. Goals met. One screen showed the last sterility wave. It swept the final Khazari holdouts. No fire. No explosions. Just biology doing its work. No young. No future. No species. An admiral stood. He looked at his team. He said quiet. "It ends soon. Not with a bang. Not with a roar. With a whisper. With empty cradles. With closed schools. With silent nurseries. That is the price. They paid it." Outside the bunker, night fell. Stars shone bright. Humans looked up. They saw the same stars their children would see one day. Safe, whole, free. The fire in every heart cooled a little. Not gone, never gone, just banked, ready if needed again. The galaxy watched still. Elder species stayed distant. They sent no aid. They offered no words. They remembered. They learned. One more time, humans protected their own. One more time, the line stayed uncrossed. One more time, a species learned too late. In homes across human space, parents waited. They waited for word. They waited for return. They waited for normal. They knew it came soon. They knew the cost. They paid it willing. Because some things matter more than peace. Some things matter more than mercy. Some things matter enough to erase entire stars. The children in the square felt it too. They sat straight. They breathed deep. They counted days. They knew home waited. They knew safety returned. They knew the hand that reached for them met iron. They knew the answer came final. Vexstar stood alone. He looked at empty streets. He looked at fading lights. He looked at the children. He understood at last. Too late. Too complete. Humanity did not forgive. Humanity did not forget. Humanity simply removed the threat. Removed it, Churdy. Removed it forever. The stars waited. They watched. They moved on. The high hive broadcast one last time. The signal cut through every channel, every receiver, every mind still linked. The voice of the Central Queen came broken and thin. Warriors of the Dominion, hear us. We still stand. We still think. We will rebuild. We will adapt. We will breed new broods. We will swarm again. Humanity will pay. Humanity will bleed. The words echoed weak. The chittering unity sounded hollow. Many listeners felt nothing at all. The link carried only ghosts. On New Elysium, the square stood quiet, under bright suns. The children waited in their rows. The chains hung loose now. Guards no longer held spears tight. They stood back. They watched with empty eyes. Vexstar walked to the center. He looked at the small figures. He raised his claws. He tried to speak loud. He tried to command. He managed only a soft click. The children looked up, one by one. They met his gaze. No hate showed. No fear showed. Just calm certainty. A single platform rose in the middle of the square. Screen flickered to life. It showed a girl, the same girl with dark braids. She stood on a stage on Earth. Green grass stretched behind her. Blue sky arched above. Flags moved gentle in wind. She wore clean clothes, no chains, no marks. She looked straight into the camera. She spoke clear and steady. You touched us, so now no more of you get to be born. The words reached every Khazari world still able to hear. The high hive caught them. The outer moons caught them. The dying brood chambers caught them. The virus had run its course. Eggs no longer formed. Larvae no longer grew. Nurses no longer tended. Warriors no longer mated. The numbers fell fast. Old ones died. New ones never came. The Dominion shrank to shadows. The shadows shrank to whispers. The whispers faded to nothing. Vexstar sank to the ground. His legs folded. His armor clacked against stone. He stared at the screen. The girl finished speaking. She stepped back. Adults moved forward. They hugged her. They kissed her head. They smiled real smiles. Vexstar watched the smiles. He had never seen such smiles on human faces. Not during the war. Not during the occupation. Now he saw them. Now he understood. They smiled because the threat ended. They smiled because their young returned whole. The children in the square felt the change. Guards removed chains. Soldiers stepped away. Officers gave no orders. The link carried silence mostly. Some faint thoughts lingered. Regret, confusion, acceptance. The children stood. They stretched. They looked around. They saw parents waiting at the edges of the square. Mothers ran forward. Fathers followed. Aunts, uncles, grandparents. The square filled with voices, soft voices, happy voices. The children ran. They jumped. They cried. They laughed. The sound rose high and free. Vexstar watched from the dirt. He saw a mother lift her son. He saw a father hold his daughter tight. He saw families join. He saw hands touch faces. He saw tears fall. He saw no anger directed at him. No one looked his way. No one cared. He became forgotten. He sat alone while joy bloomed around him. Reports came from distant worlds. Empty hives, cold creches, silent nurseries. No larvae crawled, no eggs waited, no queens laid. The last warriors aged. They moved slow. They spoke less. They lay down one by one. They did not rise. The Dominion ended, not in fire, Not in glorious battle, in quiet, in math, in the simple fact that time ran out. No young, no tomorrow, no species. The galaxy noticed. The elder races sent quiet probes. They scanned empty sectors. They found drifting ships. They found cold stations. They found nothing alive. They recorded the data. They filed the files. They added one more name to long lists of vanished peoples. The Xari joined the Xalthar, the Vrenki, the Drawl. The list grew longer. The lesson stayed the same. Touch human children, lose everything. In human space, life returned slow. Ships brought the children home. Families reunited. Schools opened. Parks filled with running feet. Laughter echoed again. Slept sound. They no longer woke in fear. They no longer checked locks twice. They trusted the night once more. In quiet rooms, old admirals sat. They looked at reports. They saw green checks. They saw complete marks. They closed files. They stood. They walked outside. They breathed deep air. They looked at stars. They said nothing. The job finished. The cost paid. The line held. One old general visited a school. He watched children play. He watched them draw. He watched them learn. He spoke to a teacher. He asked simple questions. Are they safe? The teacher smiled. Yes, they are safe forever. The general nodded. He left quiet. He carried peace in his chest. Small peace, hard-won peace. The girl with dark braids grew tall. She studied hard. She made friends. She laughed often. She told stories sometimes. She told the story of the square. She told it plain. She told it true. She said we waited, we trusted, we knew. They touched us. They paid the price. She never raised her voice. The truth carried weight enough. Years passed. The name Khazari faded to legend. Old maps showed empty sectors. Children asked questions. Parents answered careful. Parents said once a species reached too far, they reached for our young. They reached and found nothing left to hold. They vanished like smoke. The children listened. They nodded. They remembered. They carried the lesson forward. Never forget what matters most. Guard the small ones. Guard them fierce. Guard them final. Vexthar lived long past the end. He wandered empty streets. He ate what he found. He slept where he could. He saw no other Khazari. He heard no chitter. He felt no link. He walked alone. He thought alone. He remembered the square. He remembered the hand. He remembered the words. He sat under stars one night. He looked up. He whispered soft, "You touched them. Now we are gone." No answer came. The stars stayed silent. They moved on without him. Humanity moved on too. Ships sailed new routes. Trade grew. Science advanced. Art bloomed. Children grew. Strong adults grew wise. The memories stayed etched deep. Not as boast, not as tale of glory, as warning, as promise, as fact. Touch what we guard, face erasure, total, complete, without appeal. The stars watched. They saw species rise. They saw species fall. They saw humans stand firm. They saw humans protect. They saw humans erase when needed. The stars asked no questions. They judged no sides. They simply shone. They simply turned. They carried light to new worlds, to new young, to new futures. Safe because one line stayed drawn. One line stayed uncrossed. One line carried the weight of entire species. And so the story closed, not with thunder, not with flame, with quiet certainty, with empty cradles, with full homes, with children who laughed free, with parents who slept sound, with a galaxy that learned once more. Never touch human children, because when you do, humanity answers, humanity erases, and the stars forget your name.